Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, July 9th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming here from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell on this kind of rainy, overcast Wednesday morning, but we'll take it after the 90-degree heat and humidity of the last couple of days. I'll take a little cooler temps and maybe some rain to water my lawn. I'm excited today to welcome my regular Wednesday co-host to the Daily Pulse.
Good morning on this actually very pleasant day.
You and I really bring on the fall. I've had enough summer already. It's been hot as hell. Bill Samaras, former Lowell Mayor, former Lowell City Councilor, wore a lot of hats in the city, and now wears the hat of local media pundit and political pundit.
Hardly, but it is fun.
Did you ever think your career would come to this?
No.
Well, I'm glad you're here because we got so much to talk about. There's a
lot going.
Educational topics that I do want to get to. There's a discussion I want to catch up on from a few weeks back, the Markley Group, where we didn't get a chance to. But the big news was a presentation last night by representatives of a United Nations program to the Lowell City Council, which I am still stunned that some people have not grasped the magnitude of this quite yet.
I mean, last night was an amazing night. I just thought I never thought I'd be sitting in front of my television looking at a program in Lowell, a city council that had a worldview to it, so to speak. I mean, to have people from the United Nations to talk about Lowell, how important Lowell is, and what can potentially happen in this city. I don't think people really have grasped this. If and when they do, I think they'll be amazed.
And I'll be honest with you, I thought I had grasped it because I have been doing months and months of research on Frontrunner City and this urban economy forum where these representatives came from last night. And I thought I understood how big it was. And then I was at my son's baseball game. They were playing in Lowell. Chelmsford was playing Lowell, as a matter of fact, over at LeBlanc Field by the Wang School. But of course, I've got one earpiece in and I'm listening to the city council meeting. And they got to the point where this Reza Puvilari, I hope I'm not butchering his name. I did, by the way. There is a story on InsideLowell.com. Go check it out. It's on Facebook as well, and there's a photo on Facebook of the guy speaking. But I saw him come on, and I had to do a screenshot because he was speaking via Zoom, and next to him was a flag of the United States of America, a flag of Canada, because I believe he was in Toronto, and the United Nations flag. And it hit me. The United Nations, a delegation representing a United Nations program, chose Lowell, Massachusetts above Boston, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Miami. Pick any great American city, and they chose Lowell. And last night they explained why they chose Lowell. So I want to talk about all of that, and maybe you can bring me back down to earth. But
I think you're where you should be, really, on this subject.
I do too, but I almost feel like sometimes I'm like a lone wolf out there in the media world on this. Have I made it up to him? Am I being too optimistic?
No, life has changed. I mean, communication is so different now. People are relying really now on podcasts and this type of situation. More information really that we'll say gets people enthused, I think comes through this venue.
Well, I like to think so too, and it's the Daily Pulse, the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around it. And on today's July 9th show, the world has come around to Lowell, Massachusetts. Let me quickly...
Why not?
Why not? Exactly. Why not? Let me quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. By the way, my son's baseball game, I put my folding chair next to the Raymond J. Booten memorial plaque out there at LeBlanc Field. But Real Estate Ray Booten is the guy you want to be in touch with if you're looking to buy or sell your home, your business, or your commercial property. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. We're here in the WellPoint studios. WellPoint, the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Thanks, WellPoint. Thanks, Ray. We'll thank some other sponsors in a little bit, but yeah. So let me get your thoughts, Mayor Samaras, on what you saw last night. You've been aware of this Frontrunner City thing. You've followed it, and now we actually heard from a couple of the individuals, one in the city council chambers, but two via Zoom that I guess are flying in and are supposed to be here today.
Correct.
As a matter of fact. What is your understanding of this? What does this mean in your eyes to the city of Lowell?
Well, let's face it, it started because Mayor 𝐁𝐢𝐥𝐥 went to Canada to attend a conference, and he had the opportunity to speak on Lowell. And from the way I gather it, they were so impressed with what he had to say, because Lowell seemed to be an older city, a factory town, so to speak, that understands where we have to be today in today's world about sustainability, about innovation, about change. And I think they were impressed with who they met. And then, of course, it was followed up by the city manager and the city council. So people, I mean, we're talking about the potential for change. And that's what that United Nations group represents. They've made some significant changes in the world, in other cities, with other projects over the years. So I am so excited. I mean, at this point, I wish I was part of that. I wish I could, well, when they were saying, when there was some people saying, we want ideas from people in Lowell and, come down and try to be part of this. I'm ready to knock on the door and say, hello, I'm here.
So let me take a moment, because I usually use these opportunities to hammer you over a certain development, school project. But I'm not going to do that today, because it also struck me as he ran down the list of things, and the gentleman's name again, Reza Purvaziri. I butchered his name the first time, but there is a story on InsideLowell.com. Please go check it out, because it kind of recaps what he said last night, and he addressed why Lowell. And he listed a whole bunch of things. And it harkened back to a conversation that I had with Mayor 𝐁𝐁𝐥𝐥 in the very early days of this, where he said, well, there's a checklist of things that they're looking for when they want to select a frontrunner city. And Lowell had already done almost all of them, I believe, if not all of them. And he credited prior city councils, previous mayors before him. You were one of them. You were on the council for, a decade, right? Yeah. And all these steps, these Tuesday night meetings that we would look for the controversial stuff,
right,
and we'd fight over politically and whatnot, but there were important votes taken along the way over the last 10, 15 years that put Lowell in a position where somebody with the United Nations would say, hey, why not Lowell?
Well, I was actually taking notes watching television. It's like college days.
Did you pat yourself on the back a little? Because you and your fellow colleagues from previous councils and previous managers as well who stepped forward and did this stuff.
They led off with partnerships. So you think of all the partnerships that have been part of the Lowell City. They talked about sustainability. They talked about climate change. They talked about innovation, livable cities. Yeah. These are major terms that we have been taking an active involvement in as best we can with the resources that we have. Now this opens the door to the world. And that's exciting.
Yeah, it really does. And he talked about Lowell becoming a global model and people from other countries, other international cities coming to Lowell to learn about. Just like the Lowell delegation went to Toronto to learn about frontrunner cities, Lowell would now host these delegations. He specifically also mentioned the political will of the mayor, the council, and the city administration. All of you, kind of collectively through the years. But he talked about, the city's diversity. He talked about the academic and innovative ecosystem, which to me, where Marty Meehan took UMass Lowell from 2007 to 2025, along with Jackie Maloney and now Chancellor Julie.
Lowell truly has a national rating. There's no question. It's very high up on the national charts. So it's a research university. I mean, it has all the tools that are necessary. And I think you can't leave Merrimack College, Middlesex Community College out there, because you need a workforce. You need a diverse, trained workforce. Guess what comes out of Middlesex?
People trained to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
achieve and pursue education.
And now the Link project makes sense because I believe like the Link project is a big part of this, to have companies like Draper coming in and creating labs. And this week they announced Weston Sampson, I believe, was the company, another big national, if not international company. Companies that work with NASA, with the Department of Defense in AI. Mr. Purvaziri last night mentioned artificial intelligence, AI. And then he threw out 3 letters that set me back. He said MIT. Yeah. He mentioned an academic and innovation ecosystem with UMass Lowell and MIT. Does this mean the Massachusetts Institute of Technology?
I think this can be so big that it's just a natural tie-in that the University of Lowell would do with something like MIT.
Engineering schools, right? MIT is known for its engineering, right? Which is what UMass Lowell was known for all these years.
Correct, and it's happened in the past. I mean, I've been part of projects tied with the University of Lowell and Harvard and things like this in the past. So that's a natural happening. The thing is, we're in, let's face it, strange times politically and economically. And I think, especially large developers are concerned where they go. So if you're looking at the country now and you're saying, we've got to go someplace, look at the bill that Lowell fulfills. Education, diversity, willingness, hard work. It's inevitable that good things can happen here.
And you mentioned a key thing, because ultimately developers are looking for a chance to make money. They develop something so they could turn their money into more money. Right. And my understanding,
and success.
Mayor Rourke has talked about billions, $2 billion potentially of investment coming in. And my understanding is it comes in the form of low interest loans. So if you're investing money, you want a return on your investment. If you're investing money and borrowing at a low rate, your return of investment goes from here to here, and suddenly screw Boston, screw Somerville or Cambridge, or screw New York and its suburbs. Lowell, Massachusetts becomes the place to invest your money.
I've talked to a few developers, and then, that's nice. What do you mean low interest loans? I mean, the conversation just comes to a screeching halt. What do you mean by low interest loans? And that's what they mean.
I'm thinking Sal Lopoli might be kicking himself to find out he just missed out. He may have missed out on an opportunity to get low interest loans. But I know somebody who's trying to develop a hotel that is fascinated by this discussion.
Good people.
And may have put on a suit coat because he's hoping to take advantage of a lunch.
Because the thing is, that's part of the thing. They're looking for people, though, with imagination and the willingness to look and be part of all of this.
And the other thing, and look, the politicians deserve a lot of credit. Other mayors, other city councilors, and other city managers. But, they get enough kudos. There was a moment where he said something as he was close to wrapping up last night. Ultimately, right, the diversity of the city, its people, was the most attractive thing. What was that quote that you jotted down?
A city belongs to the people. I mean, and that was tying up with the scientific and academic growth and institutionalization of these projects. But he said, but they're saying, when we're all done, when we're all said and through, whatever happens, the city belongs to its people, and they have to be a major part of this. And I think they see a city that has shown active involvement from its citizenship.
It's a big stuff. I can't wait to, supposedly today they're out touring certain places in the city, getting a flavor for the city, meeting with developers already.
Correct.
And I know of at least one good meal they're having. Yeah. So I'm sure that, but you know, they could have plenty of options if they want, looking for, you know, great international cuisines in the city of Lowell. So
you know, I should say, but I heard it's the Athenian continent.
It could be. It could be. And so I figured my usual, you know, golf shorts and polo shirt weren't going to cut it. I had to put a sport coat on. And yes, there is a tie out in the other room that has to go on today as well. But very excited about this. I can't wait to see like what comes. I'm going to spend the rest of the day bugging city council to see what happened on this tour. What are the sites? What are the projects that are potentially in the pipeline here, and more importantly, how quickly could this come in? It's you know, because they're talking about a 10 to 15 year investment going up to 2040, but it would have measurable outcomes. And my thing is, it sounds like if they're meeting with developers already and touring sites, we could be seeing an investment as early as 2026. If not, why not by the end of the year, right? Am I speeding up the timeline too much?
Because there's been a lot of you know, we talk about what's been done in the past, but you got to credit the mayor and the city manager and for taking the bull by the horn and really working this. And the thing is, what's happened, I've dealt with groups like this, and their excitement is obvious because there's my feeling would be is they've had such a good interaction with the management system. They see that it can work, and they see that they're capable. And then it's followed up by seeing other city councils come in and get excited about the project and what have you. So these are people who are used to looking at places and understanding what's real and what's not.
They stated that. They said the fact that there was somebody who was at their urban economy forum, which I believe was in September of 2024, late September. That's the one where the mayor went and actually gave a speech that kind of started this ball rolling. But then they talked about then you saw the rest of the administration and another council delegation come up. And then ultimately in January, the manager and the mayor went up there and signed the contract, which was a kind of a big deal. And again, somebody tried to downplay this to me, and they said, well, you know, it's like their international, the sister city agreements there. Like, you know, you were part of the one with Kalamata, and you've done them with, like, was it Dublin or someplace in Ireland? We've had sister city agreements. This is not a ceremonial thing here.
We've hit memorandums of understanding. We've had them over the years for different situations. But anybody who looks at this and has any type of understanding of what's real and what isn't should know that this is entirely different from your typical political dance on both sides of the country or both sides of the world. I mean, the people who are involved in this and the significance of all this is so different.
Correct. It was really nice for me to get to meet the mayor of Kalamata when they came to Lowell. You know, that's where my parents came from when they came to America. Yeah, and I'm sure it was great for the Irish folks and everybody else who's had their sister city agreements. But when this guy spoke, that image is still kind of in my mind with the United Nations flag there, and I'm like, and I think the accents of the speakers drove it home a little more. Dude, these are people that are traveling the world here.
But they also understand the other memorandums of understanding, and the city's showing a willingness, because those memorandums with Kalamata, that's cultures, exchange of ideas from cultures. I mean, we're still working with it. We hope to make something out of it economically. But this is an economic presentation. Anybody who can't see that is not looking or is in denial.
B in billions, not M as in millions. And there's no ands for thousands. Yeah. These are billions of dollars that we are potentially talking about. We're chatting with former Lowell Mayor, City Councilor Bill Samaras. He's our regular guest co-host on the Wednesday edition of the Daily Pulse. It is Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. We're going to talk more, kind of a little bit of a spin-off discussion, but it somehow ties into Frontrunner City. And also a couple of academic things that have made news over the last couple of days that I want to get the former Lowell High School headmaster's thoughts on. First, let's thank all of our Daily Pulse sponsors: Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massey, New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. Find them online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that goes the extra mile. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to protect its most valuable assets since 1982, and by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Big road game for the Pirates. Major playoff implications this week. They're on the road against the Tulsa Oilers. They come back home the following week. Final regular season home game for the Pirates. Whether they make the playoffs, whether they host a playoff game, still up in the air, but your last chance guaranteed last chance to see them in person, Friday, July 25th, Folk Festival Friday. Head on down to the Songus Center, kick off Folk Festival weekend with a Massachusetts Pirates game. All right. As that word AI, artificial intelligence, was mentioned last night by Reza Pourvaziri, I thought of the Markley Group, which a couple of weeks ago was front and center in a Lowell City Council discussion. We haven't had a chance to talk about this. And it was a classic, it was a neighborhood issue, right? There were neighbors in South Lowell who were upset about an industrial expansion and what it would do to their quality of life, what it's already done to their quality of life, and what was coming months down the line, as we know that they need even more backup diesel generators. At the same time,
that was inevitable.
Yeah. So you were part of the council that invited them in. At the same time that you have this neighborhood issue, at a time that you have district representation, you have 3 at-large counselors and 7 other counselors who are kind of charged with doing what's best for the city. And I find the way the vote played out to be fascinating. Kim Scott, the South Lowell district rep, voted no. I'm not letting them expand yet because I have concerns and I want them to do more. The other counselors, while expressing some level of skepticism and we'd like to see them do more, when it came time to call the roll, they said yes. Give them permission to put those 4 more diesel counselors. Did those counselors, Counselor Scott, and then the other 9 who voted, and I believe Councilor Vesna-Noon would have been a 10th vote in favor. Yeah. He wasn't in attendance. Did they make the right vote? Is it possible that all of them made the right vote?
Yes. They went in the only direction they could go. All right. I was part of the group that did invite them in. Okay. That when they applied, we made the deals with them, the TIFs, the whole project. We saw Lowell's future being part of that, and it still is. They're major players, and down the road, they're, whether MIT will be more a part of Lowell with the University of Lowell, it's all inclusive, all of that. The only issue is that even the best of companies have to have a bridle on them sometimes. I'll use that term, okay? And we could say...
I like that, a horse racing term.
No, but Councilor...
Scott.
Kim Scott, sorry, age thing. A bad moment.
As long as it's not on a debate stage, you're good.
Yeah. But the thing is, she really has the people directly coming to her and what have you. But I think all the city councils will look at what their expansion plan looks like, and are they going to handle it in a reasonable fashion? That's what you have to have that. Because even the best of companies, they can get sloppy about it.
Of course.
Because their own engineers will say, well, it's better if we put the plant right here. Well, it's next to the children's orphanage. Well, that's okay. Well, there'll be no problem. But somebody has to come along. You don't put the plant near the children's orphanage. Do you know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Just simple statements. So that's the role of the city council, in a sense, along with the city manager. When they want to make changes, will the change be reasonable?
Right.
And they can do it.
But I think what you're saying
They have the resources to do it.
Expansion is inevitable. It is necessary. Look, Mary Burns spoke on the council floor that night.
Yeah.
Link might not be possible without Markley. Very likely not possible. But my understanding is there's a number of entities involved with Link that are clients of Markley Group. They don't talk, they don't say them, they don't publicize them. I think Comcast is one of them, but there are Link partners.
We were in there, Delta Airlines. So many of the major companies rely on them in this country, in the world, for their own safety,
correct,
their own well-being. So we knew then it's going to grow, but as I said, it's going to grow. They're going to be buying houses. They're going to be expanding. There's no question they're going to go in that direction. But they have to do it right. That's all.
That's an interesting thought. They're going to be buying. They're clearly going to expand their footprint beyond where there's fences that they have now, right? They have to.
There's
because
no question.
Artificial intelligence is demanding so much, and artificial intelligence, you heard them say it last night, is why Frontrunner City is coming here to some degree. UMass Lowell, Link, artificial intelligence, a major part of that. So one way or another, if you've got a data center in your own city, as opposed to having to go, I don't even know where the other nearest one is. That's a huge benefit.
If we made it so bad, at some point, and that they couldn't expand, well, what would happen? They would find another place and eventually shut this down.
Yep.
So what do we want?
Isn't that what the Mills did?
Yeah.
We've seen this before in Lowell, right? And we've seen what follows.
But I'll go back to reasonable decisions made on both sides, and the city protecting its citizens. The council has to do two things along with the city manager: protect the city, the citizens of the city, but also help the city grow. Guess what? That's the only way we're going to have success.
Correct.
That's the only way we'll be able to take care of the needy.
Growth in the city will also benefit South Lowell. So it sounds like if you were on the council, you were either an at-large or the Belvedere, you would have voted yes on that. Okay. What if you were representing South Lowell?
Same thing.
You would have voted yes or no?
The thing is, no. Well, at the point, if I would have made a different type of presentation. Okay. And if the group accepted my presentation, which I think I could have sold, we would all have said yes. But the thing is, at this point, a lot of the stuff was coming in fast, and Kim Scott had to relate to, I need time to go back to my people. But at this point, what they have to sell the next time they meet, they really have to say, we sat down with Markley, and our engineers, our people have ascertained that the safety of all has been considered, and we're growing in the right direction. We have to grow.
Because they are coming back. It sounds like as early as the fall with another 8 backup diesel generators as opposed to the 4. One thing, so I agree with everything you said, but I do believe that there's one segment of the city and the population as a whole that doesn't care how Markley expands. If the word diesel generator is in there, they're not going to support anything. And that is, of course, the climate activists who we saw. It was interesting to me that the residents seemed to be kind of split. A lot of residents said they're a good neighborhood partner. A few said they're a bad neighborhood partner. Most of the opposition came from the climate folks, right?
They talked about the fuel that they use, and they were asked if they use the fuel that emits less, products.
I did a separate podcast on that, telling them that welcome to the reality. Your climate movement is taking a backseat to AI, whether you like it or not.
But at some point, even the generators will change at some point.
Yep. Technology will change. Ironically enough, artificial intelligence will likely be what creates that discovery/change that will make completely clean energy, a reality as opposed to, what I'm calling a pipe dream.
But that's why I say I think at some point, realistically, Markley's going to have to take over some more properties. They have in the past. And I see it happening.
All right.
But of course, it's it's a small neighborhood, and I don't blame people for not wanting to move because, yes, you can get a good price for your house, but where do you go?
Correct. Unless you're going to move out of the city and go somewhere south.
And those are things that you have to. The city has to have answers for people. That's and the company has to have answers for the people. If we do this, and it's going to be the reaction. What's the fallout?
Sure. And that's why I think all the councilors kind of made the right decision there. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk about a couple of education things that one I think is a positive. One, I think that the people of Massachusetts, and I'm going to say some of the people here in Lowell should be ashamed of themselves for. Let's do the first one first. Massachusetts Senate Democrats advancing bell-to-bell cell phone ban in Lowell schools. And this isn't just Massachusetts Senate Democrats. This is Senate President Karen Spilka, the co-chair of the Education Committee, Senator Jason Lewis, and a bunch of others who are saying, listen, once opening bell rings, whenever that is, 7:30, 8, 9, whatever, until closing bell rings at 2, 3 in the afternoon, you're not using your cell phone on campus. Now, you were fortunate the cell phone was kind of a new thing, right?
No, I had
no.
no.
Did you have to deal with it?
No, because I had counselors making certain type of demands at different times, and it's like the no hat policy and things like that. That I had to. You had to deal with these things, but the thing is, when you're dealing with things that individual things that might have come from school committee people, it's hard to explain to students at almost 4,000 student high school at the time. But the thing is, I think with the state coming out like this and coming out with a program, look, education takes place from 7 to 2:30 or whatever. That's it. And it's the right direction to go in.
I wholeheartedly agree. I was remember, this issue played out in Lowell last year. The Lowell School Committee went out on its own and tried to do it, as some other communities had. But, my thing was, why isn't the state stepping up and doing this? As of last week, 32 states, 32 out of the 50 states already had a law or policy on their books covering K through 12 classroom and cell phone usage.
Because education needs to take place, and it's a much more positive atmosphere with that. Let me tell you, way back, you say, did I have problems with the telephone? I think he was the principal of Brookline High School, and his trouble was that when there were gang fights at Brookline High School, if there was a fight going on, they'd use the cell phone to call in support.
Oh, geez.
And, he made me aware of some of these things that people didn't realize that as principals, we had to think of things like that back when phones first came out. Now phones can do almost anything. But the thing is, if you want good education to take place, even the students realize that. But they say parents are complaining because they can't reach their children in an emergency. Of course they can. For 200 years in the school system.
How did you and I survive?
The parents called the principal's office. They called the principal's office. Can you bring my son or daughter to the phone, or can you tell them this? Simple.
It was. I thought the whole argument was overblown. I mean, I understand the passion of the students. They've grown up in a world where that thing is attached at the hip. So
most cases, fourth grade on.
So it was tough for my kid to give up his binky at 4 years old. Too. But I do feel that it was the Commonwealth of Massachusetts should have stepped in much sooner. Lowell tried to do this. It takes political courage to do things like this. Had the state just done what it is doing now, and I'm gonna guess this will pass. It will go into effect for the 26-27 academic year.
Because where it has passed, they've shown success.
It works. The Lowell High teachers said it worked. And even some students would say, it's now a better learning environment.
Most kids, you know what? There was no big thing. All of a sudden, they get to start, they had to do more conversations with their friends. There was more projects bringing the students together. They like it.
All right. Final thing I want to talk about. News story came out last week, July 2nd, NBC News, but it was NBC 10 News in Boston, but it was everywhere else. Violent crime down in Massachusetts for 2024. Now, they left buried in that story is that for the first half of 2025, violent crime has gone through the roof. But we'll put that aside for now. 2024 was a good year for violent crime. There was one type of crime where it increased. And by the way, hate crimes went down for all groups except one, Jewish people.
Yeah.
And in particular, Jewish students. One high school, Concord Carlisle High School in Massachusetts, made news, the kind of news you don't want to make for an anti-Semitic atmosphere. But look at this number, 20.5% increase in anti-Semitic hate crimes in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And a lot of that is in the schools. How did we get here? How did we, you know, everybody likes to talk about the Nazis and the concentration camps, and they throw these buzzwords around, and I don't think they're looking out at the world around them and realizing your schools in Lowell are fostering some of this. Yes, they are. In Lowell, it is happening. You haven't made the news like Concord Carlisle, but it is happening to some degree there. You're seeing marches on the street. You're seeing anti-Semitic messages disguised as pro-Palestinian messages, but you can support the Palestinian people without chanting from the river to the sea, can't you?
There's an entire difference. I mean, the whole idea of Lowell being a diverse city and an accepting city is we accept everybody and appreciate everybody and try to learn from each other's cultures. But what I'm seeing in colleges, and this is coming from friends who have either children in the college or nephews or nieces, especially of Jewish persuasion, they're all fearful of what's happening to their children. Some do not know what to do. There are, you know, and one of them was Harvard. You know, and said my son was always looking forward to going to Harvard, and we're going to take him out, or he's going to leave.
How did we get here? How has academia become the lightning rod for this anti-Semitism at the college, but also at the grade school level?
Because our political leadership at the national level, I'll tell you, I think is gone out of control. The extremes on both sides have taken over, and the issue and what I call the centrist, any type of centrist movement, which I would hope to see be more accepting, it's too quiet, has lost control.
Are they teaching the Holocaust in school? I know we did we had, and I've talked about this in the past, we had a group of kids who thought it was cool to write a swastika. The design, it was showing up on desks, it was showing up on the blackboard. So we got immersed in the Holocaust, and there was a 1-month session in social studies about the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Is that happening now? What are they teaching?
I don't know of any high school that will say spend a month on something like that.
Are they teaching the Holocaust at all, and what happened during it? And if so, what are they saying happened?
In American history, if you're being taught history of World War II and things like that, the Holocaust will be mentioned, okay, but not gone. I don't think, unless certain teachers find that it's a lesson that they want to expand on, but it's not a major requirement in any way. And what's happening now at the colleges? It's just spewing hate, and it's got to stop. Or if it's not stopped, we're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah, I honestly, I think, I'm not even sure some of the professors and teachers understand it, because the thing I keep hearing over and over again is that to justify blatant anti-Semitism, even though they don't think they are, but they are, they say, well, I'm not against Jewish people, I'm just anti-Zionist. I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm anti-Zionist. Well, if you it's easy now with Google. Just Google search the Zionist movement. The Zionist movement is the right of the Israeli people to establish their own state, Israel, which they have. If you say you're anti-Zionist and you think you're saying I'm not anti-Semitic, you're saying the Jewish people should not have their own state, which, by the way, is what the leadership of the Palestinian people, Hamas, is doing. They have refused to accept the right of the Jewish people to have their own state. Other countries have, ironically enough. 1979, the Camp David peace accords, right?
Exactly.
Jimmy Carter got Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin. Israel and Egypt together, they signed the peace accord. Now, again, here's a little history lesson for some of the folks in Lowell, because I guarantee your teachers won't teach you this. From 1948 to 1973, when the state of Israel was formed, there were 4 wars, Arab-Israeli wars, 4 wars in 25 years. Egypt was at the center of the Arab side of that conflict. 4 wars in 25 years. In 1979, they signed a peace agreement. So what's that been now? 46 years since. There's been 0 wars between the Arab and Israeli people. Or the Egyptian and Israeli people, I should say. Egypt acknowledged Israel's right to exist. Israel has now lived in peace with Egypt. Sure, the people there may still be anti-Semitism, there may be some hate on the other side. Takes time for that to disappear. But there haven't been any Arab-Israeli wars since 1973, and it's not a coincidence that the 1975 Camp David peace accords were kind of what spurred that. So no question. Are the Palestinian people, is the radical Arab world that still exists out there to some degree in some of these countries, are they ready to acknowledge Israel's right to live in its own country? And is the American left, the American left, are they ready to acknowledge this? Is academia ready to acknowledge the fact that you must recognize Israel's right to exist before you can have peace?
Let's put it this way. When I was at BU, I took courses, in the area, and I was in courses with Muslims and Jewish people. Okay, and some of the courses were very interesting because when I say animated discussions, they were animated discussions, but they were peaceful, and and the thing is, then afterwards, we had went to the campus and had a coffee together and would say continue the discussions. They were great discussions. It's changed. I mean, Israel, people, it's not going to go away. And what are we going to do now? Obliterate it? I don't think so. But there are people now, they've lost their sense. They lost their sense of direction. And it's happening at the university level. And cooler heads have to prevail. I've never thought I'd see. Let's put it this way: I never thought I'd see something like this. I'm
stunned that it's prevalent. And they used to always talk about the David Dukes and the neo-Nazi groups, and it was always pinned on the right. But they were these shadowy groups that operated out of the forests, and 24 skinheads or whatever. You now have major academic institutions that are the breeding ground for this anti-Semitism. That's troubling.
Look. We're Mediterranean. I'm old, a little older than you by many years. But the thing is, I had some hard times. There were some times you're Greek, and it wasn't the best thing to be in a certain place. And I had to make my way and what have you. But the thing is, we learned to accept each other and learn to work with each other. And that's where we are today. But we've lost that direction. And the political forces now they're not allowing it to come to peace. I don't know where we go with this. But I don't have a good answer.
I would like to say it starts with education. That's where it started with me. I didn't know, 1979, I didn't even know what the swastika was, to be honest with you. I didn't know what I knew what the design, but I didn't know what the symbolism was, what it represented. But learning the whole history going back to the days of Moses and whatnot, it helped me kind of understand it, and it made me a little bit more alert and sensitive to it when I saw it. And it bothered me that I started to see it creeping into our academics more and more, and especially in K through 12. So, but usually education is what gets you out of prejudice and bigotry. It's now feeding it. So who gets us out of this? Who steps forward and takes the lead on this?
Well, the thing, the issue is somebody has to. I mean, because the thing is, we need right now, in a sense, like I'd say a Martin Luther King type of thing, or a John Kennedy. These were people who had such charisma. You know, they could explain something. You may not like it, but you had to listen and you had to give it a chance. Okay? Where's that leadership today? I don't see it.
No. I'm with you. It's troubling, but Massachusetts, your violent crime was down in 2024. It's up in 2025. So let's do a little bit better there. But a 20.5% spike in anti-Semitic hate crimes.
It's got to be stopped.
Do better. And that everywhere. Shame on Concord, Carlisle. Lots of wealthy woke folk there. But Lowell, I see it in parts of Lowell as well. We can be better.
But the thing is, we all know so many people, but I know so many people that have come from Egypt or Iran or what have you, and none of them want that.
No, they were escaping that world in those conflicts.
Exactly right.
That's why they came to America, to escape it. But we didn't let a lot of international students in who I got a hunch weren't coming here to learn, but instead to foster what people were escaping. Just a hunch I have.
Good hunch.
Just a hunch I have. All right, Bill Samaras.
Okay.
Lots of good stuff. I don't want to end on a down note, but the Frontrunner City stuff, we're going to find out more. I'm going to keep bringing those phones today and try to find out more about what's happening out there.
You have to help get this information out. It really, once people in Lowell really realize what's happening, I think that the excitement will be pervasive.
I think, well, Dick Howe Jr. wrote about it on his Substack last Sunday, so that's a positive development there. If we can wake up the newspaper and WCAP, we might get them. But also, where's these other organizations, the CMMA, the CBA, all these other organizations that are representing communities and speaking to communities.
I think that some of them will be listening in to this. So I think some of that information will go out in the next 2 days.
Let's hope so. I hope all they had to do was watch last night and see the United Nations flag on display at a local city council meeting. It was a big, big deal. All right, I'm glad that you don't think I'm too optimistic.
No.
All right, see, I knew you were a smart guy. Now about that high school over.
Time to go.
Next week. All right. Thank you to former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras, and thank you for joining us on today's Daily Pulse as well. Tomorrow, we're trying to work with Mayor Rourke to get one of those Frontrunner city representatives to come on in here and tell you directly on this podcast, on the Daily Pulse, what it is they're doing and what their vision is and how they can help move the city of Lowell back to the prominence it displayed during the Industrial Revolution from 1820 to 1860. So lots of good stuff happening. Stories on InsideLowell.com. Check them out. Go to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram pages. See links to all of this stuff. So much positive happening. The city is transforming right before our eyes, people. Some of it can be controversial, like the Markley Group data centers and whatnot, but all of it is going to make a much better city 10 years from today. Thanks for tuning in. Stay dry out there. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the other side.